Hi everybody, Catfish Jones here, ready to go home. Let's make sure I got this so I'm not getting blinded, not getting smacked around by that lucky old sun. Yes, indeed, another day is complete, thankfully, and I am on my way home. The weather couldn't be better for this time of year, and I'm very thankful for that as well. Just generally very thankful. Am running on fumes a little bit though, and perhaps I'll even title this Running on Fumes because I need to stop and get some fuel. No, not just that, but also life is taking its attritionary toll. Every day I just get a little less full on my energy level. Sometimes in the weekends I have to take a giant nap to get up to a point where I can even bear to start a new week. But you know what? I'm sure each and every one of you knows a little bit about that in your own world. So not to be sitting here complaining, just to be pointing out. Life be tough sometimes. Life be tough. The Stoics know all about this. Have no fantasy land willing to admit completely, you know what? Life is hard. Life is hard. So, that's where I'm at, kind of running on fumes. Need to get some extra sleep. And this weekend, I was going to do a tiny painting, because, you know, I've done tiny paintings for going on a year and a half now every weekend. And really love it. It's one of my great joys. This weekend, I was going to do a bit of a live stream version of the tiny painting and do cleanup on a 3-painting set of blackbirds that I thought would have been great. And it still will be great because I will eventually get to that cleanup painting. But it didn't happen this weekend. When I was done with band practice Sunday morning, I kind of took a breather. That breather turned into a giant nap. Woke up in time to catch Stephanie Douglas on her live stream, which was very refreshing. And by the time that was done, well, I was spent again. Could barely even make it towards bed. Lay there watching some who knows what, je ne sais quoi. Some boob tube, as my mom used to say. Just drained, both physically and mentally. So, hopefully I get to catch up a little bit. But some of the projects I'm working on include a full record. I'm trying to do this album. Hopefully to have it done. Now I guess I'm kind of looking for spring, but I feel like it's pretty close to done. Now I just have taste choices. Well, I don't know if I like that. Maybe I'll cut that. Drums maybe not on that song. Maybe I'll cut those out. Oh, you know what this song needs? Maybe I should go through. I don't know about the tone on that. And kind of second guessing everything. But when you're doing a record, you do have to listen to it quite a bit and make sure that it's just right. And I've made quite a number of tough decisions over the past month or more to get to the place I'm at now, and I'm very happy with the specific songs that are on it. I'm not making any changes there, I'm sure. I'm happy with the length of each song, but there's a couple of tweaks that could still happen. And overall, I think that I have basically what I need to have for me. But all of that takes time and energy, and when one comes home from work exhausted, it's hard to expend extra energy one doesn't have to do that work well. So it's taking a little longer than I like. And you know, I also have friends here in town that I have to go visit, because if you don't, you know, go visit people, if you don't stay engaged with your friends, those friendships kind of have their own attrition. And very important to me that I keep these these friendships alive and well, the same way that I would with my YouTube friends, who sometimes get a little bit more attention from me than do the ones just in town, because the ones in town are pretty easy to take for granted. They're just right over there. Heck, I might see them at a random function or card night or who knows what. But very important to stay engaged and make sure that the quality of friendship does not recede due to my own lack of attention. And kind of in that same vein, but more along the artistic side, I really kind of took it upon myself to engage the local art community, hopefully up to the same level in which I've engaged the YouTube community, because as an artist in this town, I feel like there's plenty that I have to offer, but specifically there's support that I can offer to other artists in my town who might need resources that I can easily share. So, trying very hard to increase my presence locally and make sure that my friends are taken care of, my family as well. Trying to stay on my projects, which, besides the record, I have several stories that I'm writing. I have weekly paintings, and those take time thinking, some thoughtfulness for real, to flesh out and have ready and prepped to do another one. Just plenty going on with old Catfish. So needless to say, sometimes I just feel like I'm running on fumes. Or as the song says, just scraping by. And I'm not surprised that I'm not the only one feeling this way. But I feel that this is where perseverance comes in. That one must persevere when feeling pushed to the limits. Maintain the commitments. Be realistic and make sure that one isn't pushing oneself too far needlessly. But stick with it. You know, this record really needs to get done, and nobody else is going to do it for me. It is my own vision, and only I can see that vision through. And I've kind of put some time frames on this vision because it needs to get out. It's a record that has kind of been building for close to 10 years. When I finished Etchings the first time was about 2008, and I began working on Layers. Even though I re-released Etchings a year or so ago, Layers had already been basically working. I had, you know, a dozen or so songs ready to go, and since then have added a handful more in the writing process, and of those first dozen have scrapped at least a half dozen of them. And I say scrapped, they'll exist somewhere or another, but they're not going to be on the Layers record. So if I don't put that record out, when do I put it out? You know, it's like at some point you have to punch the card for this spot in time. This is what Layers sounded like, released in 2019. And that's very important to me. Not just to, you know, punch the card per se, but also to put it in the books and move on to the next thing and get the next thing started, so at some point I could punch the card for it as well. So a lot going on for old Catfish. Sometimes it means I don't put out a tiny painting on Sunday, and that's a personal goal for me. There's no boss over my head saying you have to put out a painting every week. That's my own self, and I do feel like I let myself down a little bit, but I also kind of have the power to let myself off the hook. Give myself freedom to not feel bad about that, because in the end, stressing about that, putting extra pressure on myself about that, will add to the stress level. Will take some of those fumes away that I'm running on. And who knows what'll happen then. So here I am, pulling down my street, driving through my neighborhood, being very careful to look out for my neighbors, making sure that I don't end up paying more attention to the video I'm making than humans walking somewhere near where I'm driving. And that was me on February 12th, 2019. I'm glad I got to share a little bit with you. Thank you for listening to me ramble. And if you're feeling like that too, if you're feeling like you're running on fumes and you're just scraping by, I tell you, just give yourself the freedom to let it go. Let go what you can let go, and make sure to preserve what is important to you, because you won't get this day again. This day is, for me, this day is about over, and tomorrow's a new day, and anything that's happened up to this point is in history. Whether it's recent history or distant history, it is in the past, and you'll never get it back. So let yourself off the hook. Don't let yourself have it. Just do your best, and we'll get through this. Until I see you guys again, hopefully very soon. Hopefully I'll be feeling better, and hopefully you will too. Until then, cheers, my friends.